Alrighty, so as many of you guys, as some of you guys may know, I recently purchased a new Bonafide SS127, and I was missing a little advantage. I need something to help me out a little bit. So right now it's in March, and so Bass Pro is having their huge sale, and they are selling a bunch of electronics for fish finders. I didn't buy one that's on sale, but I bought one that is very similar to the ones on sale, and I bought one that I think is very suitable for what I'm after and is very good for the money. I guess I don't have any personal experience yet, as I'm going to be installing it. I ended up buying a Garmin. Let's see if I can get it. A Garmin, the Striker Vivid 4 CV Transducer. So basically this is like their standard Striker 4 with this one as down imaging, and they have like the map where it's making your topography map, or quick chart is what they call it, I believe. Let's see, quick draw contours. So what that's gonna help me do is, as I go on some smaller ponds or unknown areas, this will help me map out everything and show my contour lines like that. And this is also the topography, or this is like your down imaging. It's got standard sonar as well. So I'm going to hopefully be able to have some fun with this. Like I said, I'm mounting it onto the Bonafide pod. This is standard for both the 107 and the 127. So we'll see how this all works and find out if I have any issues installing it. So this is kind of like a, I wouldn't say a how-to, but it's possible you could consider it a how-to. I am also pretty new to this part of it, so I have no idea how this is all going to work and if I have all the correct tools. Right now I've got a drill and some drill bits, like here. Some to help hold the fasteners. There's a couple that are like little small hex. I figured just a wrench would help, or do enough assistance to help me. Standard Phillips, and then a little stubby flathead. So hopefully these will help me get everything done. So for the actual electronic part of it, to mount it to the battery, which I bought at Bass Pro Shops as well, little Cabela's battery, 12 volt. This one's an 8 amp hour. It's got these little quick connect, I believe, quick connect features onto the actual battery. So I got to do a little bit of wiring. My 2 months of electrician work should hopefully kick in. I didn't have this, I thought I did, so I ended up going to Walmart. This cost me like $5 for all the things, and I think I'm gonna end up using 2 of these guys, the little red ones. So we'll see how that goes, but this should do it. Plus a sealant for when I actually am drilling through the bottom of the pod, as I don't want water in with the battery. So we'll see how this all goes. We'll keep you guys posted along the way. Alright, so I'm going to first start off by taking out the mount. So everything's still in the box. I have a few things, I messed with it a little bit, but everything's still in here. So I'm going to start off with mounting the actual monitor, or the actual fish finder itself, onto the top of the Bonafide. I could either do that, or I can do the bottom with the transducer, but the transducer, if I actually mount to the transducer right now, it won't sit on the table very well. So I'm going to start with this, and then I'll flip it over and do the bottom side later. But to start off, all you do is you pop this off like so. Let's see if I can get better lighting. So you push the bottom of this notch off, and then you can push this down. It's kind of a quick connect for you to get your fish finder on and off. This is what's going to actually hold or sit on the actual fish finder, and that's also got a quick connect too as well. But this is what I'm going to mount onto here. I'm just going to take a Sharpie and mark this out so it's centered, get it as centered as possible on this top of this pod. This is the closest part to me. I want it as close as possible to me, as there's a lot of room between me and the actual, in that pod when I'm standing there. So I'd like that closer to me if possible. So it's probably gonna sit about halfway between the logo and the edge, this top edge here. That's the plan. So I'm gonna get that drilled out and screwed on, and we'll be right back and come and follow up with you guys. So I'm only gonna drill the holes, and I'm going to screw them in. There's nothing else that really needs to be done with this, as this is a pretty, I guess you could say, pretty simple step. There's no waterproofing at all needed for this part, but this is what I'm gonna start off with. We'll be back when we mount the actual start mounting the transducer. So that'll be pretty fun. Alrighty, so I just got this drilled out. As you can see, it's hard to see, I guess, right over here, but I got pretty darn close to as square as possible down here. And then what I didn't end up saying was this is an 1/8 inch drill bit. It comes with some 3 screws. So this is, again, I'm assuming the standard striker is also the same, exact same. So now all I'm doing is gonna place it down and screw the screws in. This one's using the little, this is using a Phillips. So I'll end up using the longer screwdriver, but I don't need to show you guys how to screw in a screw. I hope not. And we'll be back in a minute. Alrighty, so now that I've already screwed in here, I noticed that it looks like Bonafide has already got some like pilot screws built and drilled out. And as you can see, I'm pretty darn close to center. That was honestly completely eyeballed. I'm just a fraction off, but they got like 3 triangles right there, and then they've got a standard like a perfectly square box. So I guaranteed, knowing Bonafide, or Bonafide, however you say it, however you guys think it is, they did that intentionally because they're thinking this out before us. But to be honest, I think I did pretty darn good job of trying to getting that in between that triangle. I think that's pretty darn close. I should be not going to complain there. So that is one thing to keep in mind when you're opening this. They have those pre-drilled. I have never even looked in this that closely. I wouldn't know until after I'm already looking at the screws. To be honest, you can probably take a little bit smaller screws just to avoid any sort of punctures and having super long ends. I might replace these in the future, as these are pretty darn long. I don't want it touching any of my wires or anything. That, or I will just put some sort of cap or rubber around the end of these so that way they can't pierce any of my wires. As the battery will be sitting right there, and all the wiring will be fitting in between. I don't want to cause any shorts. But now we're going to move on to the actual transducer, and I'm already going to look down there, and there is no pre-drilled or like given little holes. So now I'm going to make a hole and start assembling the transducer mount and everything. And we'll be back in a minute. Alright, so I've got the 2 pieces that are going to be used for the actual transducer, where the transducer actually mounts. I have it flipped because I'm using this on the bottom side of this pod, like I said. So the transducer will normally sit off the back of your boat, more like this, and this plate would be like 90 degrees up. Whereas in this case, they're gonna be running parallel. And so for this, I'm gonna actually run it like more lengthwise, as this is gonna help run the wire afterwards when I move this transducer wire. It's gonna end up moving that back down towards the front, where I'm gonna end up drilling through the actual, there's not a scupper hole, but I'm gonna end up drilling a hole through where I can run the wires for the actual transducer to go through. So I'm gonna have this flipped around just to have this little notch here to run, just to manage the wires a little bit better. But I will mark out the holes where they're gonna go with the pencil, and it all works out really well. Like the width of this plate is almost the exact same width of the actual bottom of this pod. So that works out really well, and I think that'll help a lot. But we'll be back when we get this drilled out and we start assembling this bottom plate. I'm gonna end up waterproofing it, but I'll do that all on the inside. But we will be back when we have that finished up. Alright, so I got these 2 holes drilled out. You can use the template or you can use a pencil. I just used a pencil as I knew roughly where I wanted it already. So I've got these holes drilled out to the same exact diameter as what Garmin recommends, which is 5/32. But I also went out to Walmart because I don't want the screws going super deep, and I'm not trying to machine into, let's see, they give you 2 screws that are 2 Phillips, and they're like actually binding into the plastic. I want to keep it a little bit shallower and use a nut and bolt and some washers, just so I can keep this, so I can, if I ever wanted to remove this off of here, I can always make that happen. I know the sealing is going to make it weird. It's kind of contradicting it as I'm trying to seal it to make sure nothing gets in there. It's going to make all these screws go bad. So these were like $1, and that's fine. I bought $1 worth of these, and then bought some little washers to go with it. Number 8, they're 1/2 inch long. They should be the perfect length for it. So I accounted for the thickness of this, the thickness of the plastic, and then hopefully enough for the actual enough for it to actually bind into or bite into the actual nut. So we'll get that assembled. I'm gonna do probably all of it off camera and show you guys the final product and show you guys, I will probably already put the sealant on it as well. But yeah, these guys are a little bit smaller, and these are why I have the flathead screwdriver. Otherwise, Garmin doesn't say to use a flathead. I'm just going to, as this is what the machine screws I bought were. They were at Walmart, they're cheap. And Haley won't get as mad at me if I'm buying some cheaper stuff. So yeah, that's where I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna put that transducer in, and then mount the transducer, and then afterwards I'm gonna show you guys me putting together the actual transducer under the bottom mounts. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I'll show it as well and show the order of putting the two pieces together if that's necessary. But we'll keep walking through it, but this is the next step, so we'll be right back. Alrighty, so I got that already drilled up and sealed with the sealant. Next, I'm just gonna put together the transducer, which is just 5 holes. They come with 5 little washers as well. And just attach this to this plate, because this is the one for the actual the kayak mount that we're going to be running. They have another mount that if you want to attach it to a trolling motor, it comes with that as well. I'm obviously not attaching to a trolling motor as I'm going to be paddling, so this is all I'm going to need, and I will be back when this is all finished, and I will put it onto there, and I won't screw it in, but I will attach it to here without putting the washer or the bolt right through. But we'll get to that next. Alrighty, so I got that mounted onto there, onto the actual mounting plate. I got the transducer sitting here. I'm running this wire down through here, through the back side here, through this little cable holder right here. It gets a little tight underneath here. Obviously that wasn't the initial intent of that. But it isn't like it's pinching it to a bad extent, and it's not harming it. But I'm leaving this hang right here for now, and I'm gonna show the order of actual putting this nut and everything together. So it comes with, here, I'll set this on the ground. It comes with this little package to mount the two, because that can rotate depending on what position you want it in. So what you'll do is on the back side, you'll do your lock nut, and then you'll put in your rubber grommet or your rubber washer, it looks like. I don't know exactly what that's for. And then the actual like standard washer is going up to the back of your screw head. So the washer is kind of in between the rubber washer is between the plastic washer and the actual mount itself. But I'm gonna get that all tightened up and get it ready. Next thing we're gonna do is poke the hole through to have the transducer hook up to, or have all the wiring come into the inside of the actual, the inside of the bottom of the pod. Have everything inside. Alrighty, I'm back. So I did a little bit more research, and I think what I'm gonna end up doing is so it comes with this hole to run the actual transducer wire through. And I'm thinking I'm gonna use that. This is about a 1/2 inch hole right here that you have to drill out. Run the actual transducer, all the wire into the inside. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use these to help hold or guide the route I'm gonna do. This little hole doesn't fit ideally right here on the bottom in this little angle. So what I'm gonna end up doing is probably putting it to the side and using 2 of those. It comes with 2 of them. 2 of those little guides to route this all above the water line. So the water line is roughly right here. So this is all above the water line, so all these holes, I'm gonna still like make sure they're sealed, but I'm gonna end up doing it above the water line and getting this routed correctly. I probably only use 1 right here, and then I'll put the actual hole up in towards the top end. And then where it's gonna come out to plug into the actual fish finder, I'm gonna actually take this guy back off. And as you can see, there's that little crevice right there. That this is actually the same exact thickness as the power cable. The power cable is a little thicker than the actual transducer cable, but I'm gonna run both of those 2 out of the inside of this hatch here and come out from underneath and be nice and clean up to the top of this fish finder. So that's the goal. I will get back with you, see where I did that and lay out the plate or figure out where I'm gonna mount those. But yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'll show you guys when I'm done as far as these 2 holes where I'm mount it and how I'm gonna do that. But I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna worry about sealing. I'll seal the screws, but I'm not gonna seal the actual like hole itself. And then I'll show you guys the plate when I take that back off, but we'll get back to it in just a second. Alrighty, I know I said I was gonna come back and give you guys an update where I did everything. I can kind of explain. I ran into a couple, I wouldn't say issues, just more of my own issues or own fault for each of the mistakes. So I drilled through right underneath here, and as you can see, I already have everything mounted up, and the wire's coming straight through the bottom of this plate, which makes it really nice. I don't have to run across the entire top. When I was drilling through, I have standard drill bits, so it cracked the actual pod itself, but you won't be able to see any of the crack or big old gouge I put in it because it's all underneath this plate, luckily. So it all turned out all right. Let's see, I already locked it all up. Let's open her up real quick. As you can see, it just made a bigger hole. That's all it was. I was trying to put a 1/2 inch hole through, and I didn't want it. Didn't work out that well. So I did this. I don't have a drill bit that's big enough for the exact same size as what, I don't know exactly what they call them. Here, one second, let me see. They call them a cable entry cover. Remove the cable entry cover using, and then pilot those holes to put those 2 side screws in, the 2 machining screws. You can barely see or anything like that, but basically this little, with the number 1 on it, there's a little hole on the back of that cover. It like sticks out, it sticks out so it can come into it. I don't have a big enough drill bit to do that, so I just sanded down the back end of that. So it sits flush with the back end of this. So it sits flush with the back end of here. Let's see if I can get that any sort of lighting. So it just ends up sitting perfectly flush there. I'll close this back up. As you can see, I have it all hooked up and I have the battery. I did the electrical work. I don't think I need to explain that. Those are just 2 quick attach. It all depends on your battery. For my battery, it just was 2, I don't know. There are 2 quick attach pieces, and I think this is a 20 gauge wire. It's pretty small. But it's between 22 and 16 because it worked just fine with these fittings. And then, like I said, I drilled through. Let's close it back up. I made a little bit of cable management just so this is a little bit cleaner. I know I've got the power cable kind of all over, but the power cable is a little shorter anyways. So we'll just manage our way through. I know my chair is ridiculously loud and annoying, but we will manage. I'm trying to decide whether I take this tag off. It says specifically, do not remove. So it's making me wonder if I should not remove it. 1 second, we'll flip this over, we'll close this. I don't really know what's causing this not to close that well. I'll take a peek at that in a second. And then, like I said, I ran this wire through back here just to allow this to have a cleaner route from the bottom of this transducer up here. It all worked out really well. I sealed this one. I didn't seal these 2 because this giant hole isn't going to matter anyways. There's probably water that will get in here eventually, but I'll be taking this off every time I put it in the water. But like I said, this is all set up now. So now I've just got to remove this fine plastic cover, and we will power her on. There you go. I know I gotta go test it out. I've already turned it on and set up the menu. The menu I just set it to English. I'm excited about this one because I have the option of the clear view, like right here. So this is gonna be giving me my down imaging. I do have it all hooked up. It's not gonna give me any sort of feedback, I don't believe. I'd be very surprised if it did. Anyways, I can probably put it in demo mode if I needed to, but clear view, which is like down imaging. You got your traditional sonar. You got a flasher if I went ice fishing. I'm not ever gonna probably ever use that. Split frequencies if I need to detect it. It helps at different depths in the water. Certain depths, higher frequency is better to go. I think it's better shallower, and lower frequencies are better to just get down to the bottom. It has a longer range if I remember right. This I can split traditional and down imaging, and then I can go traditional and map. I can go, if I wanted to, I can set it up. I'm probably gonna have one with the down imaging and map, as that'll be pretty cool. I don't know, I'll mess with this a lot, and hopefully I can get a good use of this in the future. and get it all set up. But yeah, that's pretty much it. The quick draw map, that's what I'm excited about, because a lot of the ponds and places I'm gonna go to, there is no pond or anything about it, so there's nothing that it will actually give me to read. So this is exciting for me. This will help a lot on the Bonafide, but hopefully you guys enjoyed. I know this was very simple, but the way I did it, I felt like it was a little bit different than most people. Most people ran their wires all the way through the back, and then one hole they drilled it and they put the fish finder towards the back end. For me, I wanted it closer to the front, and I showed what I was gonna do there. So hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll hopefully get some footage of how this works out in the water. But till then, let me just get a good old, I don't wanna hurt the battery inside, but here you go. Here's how she looks at the end. I think it turned out just fine. But we will see you guys later, and hopefully I'll see you guys out in the water testing this out, catching some fish. See you later, guys.